Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, Gold Shovel. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. We've got a good show for you today. We are going to be talking about the news from the week, including a tease for a new Switch peripheral. And then on Thursday, we are finally going to have our good old-fashioned Nintendo job swap. And I know what you're thinking. Weren't you going to do that last week? Yeah.
But then a Nintendo Direct happened.
And what do you want us to do?
Yeah, seriously. Which one would you rather us talk about?
This Thursday's episode is going to be great. We're going to have a ton of fun. Mark, how you doing?
I'm doing good.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of the dog days of summer. I don't really know what that saying means, but I'm attributing it to, like, this time of year.
I assume that it is temperature related.
Because, like, hot dogs?
Because of hot dogs, but also because of the saying Three Dog Night. Which is, you're familiar with, and also there's a band, Three Dog Night.
Right, see, I'm familiar with the band. I don't know the genesis of the name.
So the genesis of the name is that, like, when you were a rancher, right, you're a cowboy, and you are herding these cattle out on the plains, that you would sleep with your dogs when it was cold. And if it was an especially cold night, you would need to have 3 dogs around you. So you'd be like, uh-oh, getting chilly. It's a real 3-dog night.
Oh, wait. So the dog days of summer is not that it's hot, it's that it's cold?
No. 3-dog night is definitely temperature related.
Okay.
So I'm saying, okay, all dog sayings must be temperature related. And you say the dog days of summer. So I go, there we go, temperature related.
Gotcha.
It's summer.
Here's where I thought you were going with the 3-dog night thing.
Yes.
Was that when it's really hot outside, ranchers have to bring 3 dogs with them to help them herd the cattle, because cattle get crazy when it's hot outside, so it's real hard to herd them.
Oh, sure. They get like the crazy sweats.
Yes.
Yeah, I would buy that. I believe it. Hey, speaking of weather, we've got an email from a listener asking about weather, and I feel like we're going to have to disappoint him. He has 2 questions. So this is from Pete. Pete says, "Hi, guys. As Patrick already knows, I'm heading your way next weekend to check out Galaxy's Edge and the rest of Disneyland. My plan is to continue my Super Metroid run on the plane. However, I know the SNES app needs to check in for an active subscription periodically. Any chance you guys could give me a rundown on how that process works? I don't really want to be stuck in the air without Wi-Fi and not be able to play. Also, what are the odds you could bring back the weather segment, but instead give me a forecast for Monday the 16th and Tuesday the 17th in Anaheim? It's going to be hot.
It's going to be hot.
It's going to be hot. It's been hot in Southern California.
Yep.
If the high is below 90, we'll be lucky.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry.
The second part of it,
yes, or the first part rather.
right, yes. The first part that we are addressing second,
yes,
is that all you have to do, if it's like the NES Online, and we have no reason to think it isn't, you just have to have connected to the internet, or like you have to have like logged in to the NES Switch Online while connected to the internet once in the past week.
Right. So a quick, easy way to make sure that you are doing, I think just if you're connected to the internet and you use the Super NES app, that'll just do it automatically.
Yeah.
But if you want to like be double careful and like force the issue, like try to pair up with someone who's playing it, or just like send an invite to someone, because then it will have to ping the network to like know that it's connected.
That part's not necessary.
Probably not necessary.
You can totally do it if you want. Like, why not? Reach out to somebody, make a connection.
Yeah.
But
yes,
you don't have to.
Right. And it's good for like a month, right? Or
a week.
A week. Okay. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's not bad.
It's not bad. You know what's also not bad?
Well, we may have to argue about this one. Sonic Forces is not bad. Also not bad, our Sonic Forces borrowing program. Would you like to borrow my copy of Sonic Forces? You can. All you gotta do is send us an email at nintendocartridgesociety@gmail.com and give us your mailing address, and we mail my copy of Sonic Forces for the Nintendo Switch to you.
And then at some point you mail it back. It costs you nothing.
$0 and 0 cents and 0 half cents.
And while you're sending that email, why don't you send us your Mario Maker 2 levels?
Yes, so we have been getting some Super Mario Maker 2 levels.
Yeah,
from
thank
listeners.
you so much.
Yes, thank you. Edward tweeted us a level, and Mark, you played that one right before we hopped on mic.
Mhm.
You want to tell us about that one?
Short and sweet, just the way I like it.
Yes.
Pretty straightforward.
Yep.
I liked it. We'll include the code
Yeah,
in the show
level
notes
code here. It was like a low gravity kind of.
Oh yeah, I think
level.
it was actually the first time that I've played one of those moon levels, and the entire time I was like avoiding the moon.
Yeah.
Because I thought it was gonna be like the sun, but I should have known that it was the opposite of the sun, and that it was actually like good if you hit it.
Yeah, I mean it wipes everyone off the all the bad guys, the enemies off the map, kills them all. So that one was nice, super short and sweet. We also got an email from Jared, and he sent us a level called Cold Muncher Mountain. We will include the code in the show notes. He says in his email, Super Mario Brothers 3 style, Mario Raccoon required, gotta use the tail inside the mountain for a quick trip up and then a quick trip back down again. Couple of checkpoints, nothing too crazy. So this did include one thing that was crazy in that I did not know it was a feature of the physics of Super Mario Brothers 3. If you are flying with the raccoon suit and you hop on an enemy, it resets your flying timer, right? Like when you run and you jump and you start flying, Mario will fly for a certain amount of time, and when that time is up, then he starts to like fall to the earth. However, if you land on an enemy before the flying is done, it resets that timer. So there's a vertical section where you need to like kind of zigzag back and forth here and jump on, not jump, but like fly down, like dive bomb a Goomba and keep flying up. We didn't know that.
No, I had no idea. It makes me wonder if this is a feature of Super Mario Brothers 3 or if it's something that's just in Mario Maker 2.
Yeah, I do not know. And I was playing it with you on the couch next to me and Sarah in the room, and all three of us were like, "How do you do this? How do you do this, guys?" But then it was actually kind of gratifying to be like, let me try one thing, and then land it and do it and feel good about it. Jared also has a question. We want to answer the question?
Yeah.
Okay. He says, also, let's say from here on out, you are limited to 1 hour a week of video games. How would you spend that time? All at once, or would you spread it out over the course of the week? Would you play a large game like Breath of the Wild in hour chunks? It'd likely take a couple of years to finish. Or maybe you play Tetris 99 for 15 minutes here and there throughout the week. Do you even bother playing new games, or do you stick to games you already know and love? I'll hang up and listen. Thank you, by the way, and turn down your radio. Thanks for all the work you put in the podcast. I enjoy listening each week. Jared in Michigan. So there are some weeks where I feel like I only have an hour to play video games.
I think I do it a chunk at a time.
Yeah.
Because
like an hour at a time, or
I think so, because even now, like if I'm sitting down to play something like Fire Emblem Three Houses, it gets psyched out if I'm like, oh, I only have a few minutes to play here or there. When I have an opportunity to play video games, I like to like really settle in and like build a nest of it.
Yeah, I mean, kind of. Otherwise, it almost feels like I am like playing them to like waste the time. Do you know what I mean? Like if I'm doing 5 minutes here or like 10 minutes here, it's kind of because like I just don't know what to do with those 10 minutes, and like that's as play Super Mario Run on my phone or like do a Tetris 99 is like that's gonna eat up that time, and that's no way to live a life, right?
I mean, I think Tetris 99 is maybe the example of where you could do something like that, but I feel like these bigger experiences, it's hard to do, especially like an RPG or something. It's hard to do in just like 15-minute chunks.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Fire Emblem Three Houses is a great example of like a game when I've got 20 minutes that I'm not even going to turn on because it doesn't make sense for me to engage with it. Like that.
Even like an hour, I'm hard pressed.
Yeah, kinda, especially if like you just finished a battle and you're about to like head into a segment where you're gonna want to like explore the monastery, especially before the time jump. Like I spend so much time walking around the monastery before the time jump, trying desperately, sweatily to recruit students who are just going to reject me over and over again. And you need time to heal from that heartbreak.
Do you think you would do only old games, or would you try to experience like new games in this 1 hour time period?
I would embrace the futility and try to play new games. I mean, I feel like we are, even though we are not throttled in that same way, of 1 hour, like you do have a limited amount of time to play games. And so I would continue to split my time between very futilely trying to play the new games that I think are going to be cool and, playing Link to the Past for the 30th time.
I definitely think I'd become more picky about games.
Yeah.
Where it was just like, oh, if this hasn't really grabbed me after 2 hours,
yeah,
then maybe I'm
that's
just moving on.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
One more email before we move on into the rest of the show. We got an email from Lizzie, who, if you remember, Lizzie won our Donkey Kong 3 contest, and Mark mailed her some socks. So she emails us, and the subject line here is Donkey Kong, more like Donkey Long socks. Email reads as follows. The pun is bad. My apologies. Thanks for the socks, guys. They are better than any prize I could have imagined. Here's a fun fact about me. My feet are really small. I can even fit in...
These socks are so big.
Yep. I can fit into children's shoes. And these socks are massive. I'm thrilled about it. In case you don't believe me, I've attached an illustration. Here are the socks with the caption. As you can see, the heel of the sock is at my calf. Thanks for being a great podcast, Lizzie. Lizzie, thank you for being a great listener.
Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you to everybody who writes into us or tweets at us. We love it.
We do. Look, it makes the show more fun. We get to be like a conversational thing where like we're not just talking at each other, which I also like.
Yeah, don't get me wrong.
No, don't do it. All right, let's get into what we've been playing.
So I'm slowly making my way through Hollow Knight, really almost at this like hour by hour pace.
Yes.
I don't really have
hour by hour.
anything new to say about it. Just that I'm enjoying it a lot. I've also been playing a little bit of Fire Emblem Three Houses. So this is not, I guess, like a real spoiler, but I am going to talk about one event that happens in the game, like while you're at the monastery. So I guess heads up for that.
Okay.
There's like a fishing tournament.
Sure.
This is a low stakes one.
Oh yeah, this is the non-spoiler.
Yeah.
If it's about a fishing tournament, it is non-spoiler.
So there's a fishing tournament. You get like 50 tournament bait.
Yes.
And you can try to catch a fish for how do you say her name? Like Phelan?
Oh, Flane?
Flane.
Yeah.
You try
right?
to yes. I think the
Flayn.
Yeah, I think you're right. And you try to catch a fish that's special for her. You don't know what kind of fish. So I looked it up online.
Yeah.
And it has to be like when you're fishing in Fire Emblem Three Houses, you like put the bait, you throw it, and then there's indicators for what size of fish there is. There's blue, which is small, red, which is big. Then apparently there's like a yellow or gold one.
Yeah.
And that's the one that Flane wants.
Yes.
But out of 50 bait, I never even saw
really?
a yellow fish. And here's the thing.
Yes.
Is that with one bait, you get like 3 or, if you don't catch the first one that comes by, you can see like 3 or 4 fish. So I have to, next time I play, reload my save file.
No.
Because there's no way that I'm not catching this goldfish.
This is
my Moby Dick.
Have you only... It's like a fish to fish. It's pretty close. I know a whale's not a fish. Are you just discovering like fishing now?
I did it like, the first time you're exploring, you can pretty much just like go around and do everything. And I did it that first time.
Yeah.
But
just to do it.
Yeah, I just haven't really gone back to it because it's not even like a true. It's not like a particularly fun. I don't like fishing mini games and games anyways.
No, neither
and
do
this
I.
is not a particularly compelling version of it.
Here's the thing: it being so simple and like you don't have to do any of this like pulling back on the rod and letting out a little bit. It actually makes it a fishing mini game that I like better than all other fishing.
Well, that's why I don't
games.
mind the idea of having to do this again 50 times.
Yeah.
Is because I hate. All right. We haven't even gotten to it yet, but Link's Awakening, it has that like fishing mini game where you're trying to get the big fish, but there's all like the little fish, and you have to kind of direct it and all that kind of stuff.
Also, there's like a bottle down there or something.
My absolute least favorite fishing mini game was the one from Twilight Princess.
Yes,
because I could not figure out those motion controls. for the life of me.
No, they don't make any sense. I feel the same way about the fishing in Ocarina of Time, where I'm just like, don't make me do this.
Yeah.
What do I need, a heart container piece? No.
So Hollow Knight, great. Fire Emblem Three Houses, great. And of course, SNES games,
Yeah.
great. Played some Stunt Race FX. That game,
unplayable.
real ugly.
Yeah. Real tough to play.
I actually got better at it because I did the first whole like beginner's course. So it was like 4 levels and like the bonus match.
I did not finish a course when I tried to play Stunt Race FX.
It controls completely crazy.
Yeah.
But I after a while, that like muscle memory of doing those tracks so many times kicked in. So I was able to complete it. I can't believe I put so much time into that game as a kid.
Yeah.
But I love the fact that it is included in the SNES online.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It falls in the same category for me as Star Fox, where you're like, it's incredible that the Super Nintendo was able to do this. How can anyone play it? It runs at like a frame a second. It's just a huge hot mess. I hope to spend a little bit more time getting into the Super Nintendo library on there. This last week, I was in San Francisco and Santa Cruz and kind of traveling around, so I didn't have a lot of time to play games. I did, however, play Tetris 99 with the new features, including the Invictus mode, which again it's just normal Tetris 99, except the only people who can play it are people who have won first place in Tetris 99. So the competition is ferocious, or as Sarah and I have taken to saying, the tish is frosh. So the best that either of us have done in it so far, she's gotten a 3rd or 5th place victory, something like that. Not victory, you still lose. And I've gotten in the top 50. So I hope to get better at that. But I feel like it makes the regular version of the game a little bit easier.
That's what I'm hoping.
So that's good. We also checked out the 2-player mode. It is just 2 people against 97 computer-controlled opponents.
Oh, it's not online?
Yeah, it's not online, which is a little bit of a bummer, and I'm not sure why it's a bummer, but like playing against, like, because really, what's the difference?
Right.
So I don't know. I'm not going to be digging into that too much. But the daily missions are a totally excellent reason to go back into this thing, where you go and like boot up the game, and it gives you 4 little activities that you can do. Where it's like score. One from today was score 5 triples in marathon mode. So you just play through one thing of marathon, and you score your 5 triples, and then you get some tickets. Use the tickets to buy new themes. One of the themes is Super Mario Brothers, and like this is like basically the kind of stuff that I'd been asking for.
I was so hopeful that it would have the Fire Emblem Three Houses theme.
Oh no, it's all those.
They're all new.
Look, maybe the those themes will like come in later, that they'll like slowly add them back, or not. No one knows. Here's the last thing I've been playing, Mark, on the Santa Cruz boardwalk. It's like an amusement park there, right? There are roller coasters and like dark room rides and stuff like that. There's also a big old arcade. And I got my hands on the Donkey Kong arcade machine. And my friends were like, "Hey, Patrick, you know how to play Donkey Kong, right?" And I said, "Yeah, I know. I mean, I'm no Billy Mitchell, but I know how to play Donkey Kong."
Yeah, because you're not a cheater.
I am not a cheater, Billy. So I played some Donkey Kong. I set the first 2 high scores on there on the machine at the Santa Cruz Boardwalk. I was only momentarily happy about it, and then I was like, they probably unplug this thing at night or turn it off, right? Like there's no way those are scores going back, because we're talking.
I don't know. Do you think they just have like one giant switch that shuts down power for the entire boardwalk?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, probably.
But it was fun. It was fun to play Donkey Kong in a public setting and have people be like, "Wow, like that's nice." It's a nice feeling for someone to be like, "Hey, you're good at this game." That's like 40 years old. All right, Mark. That's what we've been playing. Let's get into the new releases and what we might be playing next week.
Yesterday on the 9th of September, Celeste released a new DLC, Chapter 9, which is kind of like an epilogue that is supposedly or seemingly like kind of like a little standalone story, introduces some new mechanics. It's completely free if you already own Celeste. seemed all like the reviews and everything have been very glowing. I loved my time with Celeste. This feels Celeste is hard.
Yeah.
And right, and it like builds in difficulty. So the idea of I haven't played it for like 2 years of jumping in back into like chapter 9 feels kind of overwhelming. But I think it's really cool that they've done this. It's kind of saying like a farewell to Celeste in a way. But I'm unclear if you have to beat the core game to get to chapter 9, but I think so, just because there are 8 chapters in the game, so it follows that this would be like the finale.
That's cool, and it came out September 9th, 2019, coinciding with the 20-year anniversary of the Sega Dreamcast.
That's right.
99.99, same day as the Video Music Awards that year, I believe. No, maybe it was what did I say? Would I say Video Awards?
Yeah, was it the Blockbuster Movie Awards?
No, so it's definitely an MTV award show. I think it was the MTV Movie Awards.
Oh, okay.
But who can remember?
So many great award shows.
Right. That, the Emmys.
And then on September 12th, Overcooked 2 Carnival of Chaos, which I believe is a DLC, is released.
Oh, now that's interesting. Overcooked is a game that I always forget about, but whenever there's a new pack of like DLC like this, it's a good reason for Sarah and I to scream at each other in a fun way.
Yeah, it's cathartic.
Yeah. Well, no, just in a fun way, like we're having fun.
Yeah, but I mean, I think not for like your relationship or anything. I'm just saying like screaming is cathartic in general.
That's true.
Try it, won't you? Sinking City comes out on September 12th as well. And then Arcade Archives Track and Field. I have it highlighted here. This is not a game that I specifically have played, but I will forever have room in my heart for these old like 18/16-bit track and field games.
Yeah.
Just because it reminds me so much of childhood.
Now, obviously, this isn't a Power Pad game, right?
No. It was an arcade game.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
And then on September 13th, Star Wars Pinball is released and Demon X Machina.
Hard to believe that game is out already.
I know. And then that means we're literally 1 week away from Zelda.
Mark, I only have 1 hour a week I can play video games. How do you expect me to budget time to replay a Game Boy game I played 25 years ago? I mean, I'm going to do it.
Yeah, me too.
All right, let's get out of these new releases. Now it's time for a regular segment on our show. It's time for 433. In 1952, American composer John Cage wrote a piece called 433, wherein a performer or a group of performers didn't play their instruments for 4 minutes and 33 seconds. For the purposes of this show, our instruments are talking about Nintendo. So, for the duration of one performance of 433, Mark and I will talk about something not at all Nintendo-related, thus fulfilling the contract of the piece. Mark, today we're going to be talking about cartoons that we remember that we don't think other people remembered. And we stumbled upon this because you are thinking about Centurion.
I think that's what it was called.
Is it singular or plural?
The plural.
Okay, Centurion.
Because this was definitely, one of those cartoons that ended up being made in probably like the late in the 80s that I definitely didn't see in its original run, but it was on like Cartoon Network a lot when I was a kid.
Sure.
Before they started making their own cartoons, and it was all just like weird Hanna-Barbera.
Yeah.
So it was.
Oh man, what a time to be alive!
It was definitely made for a toy line because they were these rad soldiers, right? Real beefy dudes who they would transform into these centurions, which basically meant that they got into these suits with holes in them that then these like accessories, like a Gatling gun that has pegs on the end could like attach into their suit. I mean, it was literally just animating the toy.
Yeah, I mean that sounds a lot like Exo Squad. Do you remember Exo Squad?
No.
Very good, very good. Exo Squad, it was big beefy dudes. They would get inside like mech suits. I don't believe they would transform in any way. But it was basically just a G.I. Joe meets like robots.
Yeah. Another one of those like beefy dude. And this one, I feel like they were in a Geico commercial. So this one obviously is less obscure, but it was Thundar the Barbarian.
Sure.
Do you remember this one?
Yeah.
So it was like the whole setup was like in the year 1996, a comet like travels between the Earth and the moon and pulls the moon's gravitational like field off of it.
I remember 1996.
And so
I was 14. I
like
remember.
the entire world transforms into this hellscape.
Mm.
And Thundar is basically He-Man,
Right.
but just in a mutant Earth.
So that's mutant Earth, huh? So that's weird. In my head, I feel like that's crossing with the Wonder Twins cartoon.
But they didn't live in like a post-apocalyptic Earth, weren't they? Just like superheroes?
Yeah,
were they
maybe.
part of the Super Friends?
Look, man, I don't know.
I don't know either. We barely remember
we
these
barely
cartoons.
remember these things. Here's one that I was recalling with a previous guest, Colin J. Morris, over the weekend. There was and I believe it to be a 3-episode miniseries on Fox called Red Planet. That was about like a colony on Mars.
This was a cartoon miniseries?
Yes.
Okay.
And it was also like, how was I plugged into? Why did I know it existed? Why did I know when to tune into it? Did they air all 3 episodes at once? Were it 3 consecutive days? 3 consecutive weeks? Who can even remember? But it was human beings on Earth, and they have like a colony, and they water is a precious resource, and so they store it in tanks and stuff. And it is they are occasionally beset by these like giant red dog creatures that would attack and try to eat their water, and they refer to these as water seekers, right? But it's water. The bad guys were water seekers, and then they had this like small gooey blob of hair and tentacles named Willis, who was like their cute buddy. And when Willis knew that there were water seekers around, he would go, "Water seekers," and it was really like cute and weird. And this is all I can remember about the show.
What was it, like Saturday morning cartoon?
I don't know.
I wonder if it was like a failed TV series. So like not actually a miniseries, just
Great point. Yeah, that was the 3-part pilot or something.
right.
Because like a lot of the shows like that started with multi-episode pilots. Like the Ninja Turtles started that way. I'm sure every Ninja Turtles knockoff started that way. Yeah, it's just weird to think then that they wouldn't have picked up the show but still aired it. Or maybe they did pick up
I
the
guess
show.
it's a sunk cost.
Right.
But we'll never know for sure.
We were accompanied today. Hold on, wait. I didn't actually write this down. By Armin Fuchs on the piano. Thank you, Armin. You have accompanied us so many times before, and you have not failed us here. All right, Mark, let's get into the news.
Last Thursday, just one day after last week's Nintendo Direct, Nintendo released a teaser for a new experience coming to Switch with the promise that more details would be revealed this Thursday on September 12th.
What do we think? Netflix?
This whole I see. I understand. No, I don't.
Oh, okay.
Because they then showed the teaser itself shows this new apparatus, this new peripheral that seems to be like it's a circle that
like a hula hoop?
It is like made out of like resistive like rubber or
Okay.
plastic or something, and you attach a Joy-Con into it. Then you also strap a Joy-Con onto like your leg or your arm, and then we see people doing kind of fitness related things, maybe.
Interesting. Now, this is a place where the Wii branding is going to be missing because we're not on Wii anymore, right? But like that was a like Wii Fit and Wii Sports. Like I feel like the Wii, obviously it also did like music and Wii Play and stuff like that. But I feel like the physicality of the motion control games is like synonymous with the name Wii.
Yeah.
And we just don't have that now.
Well, so the thing I thought was interesting is that Wii Fit was very much like, in my memory of like all the branding and the commercials and everything was, hey, this is like a time for yourself, right? You're exercising, you're centering, you're balancing. It's time for you. Whereas this, even though it was very like physical and seemed like it was kind of about like strength or endurance, it was a party game.
Oh, interesting.
Right? Like the trailer itself was it showed like a bunch of cities, like it'd be like Madrid, Kyoto, Seattle, Calgary, and it was different groups of people like playing and laughing and watching somebody kind of doing these ridiculous things. I'm wondering, it seems to me, based purely on this teaser, is that it's kind of a mix between 1-2 Switch and like a Wii Fit type thing. I don't really know what to make of it.
That seems
The
like a weird
trailers-
fit.
The trailer
right?
is weird.
Having most of the Wii generation pass as I lived in apartments with like roommates and stuff, I always found it embarrassing to mess around with the Wii Fit with people around.
Totally.
So I don't know if making it like a party game alleviates that or makes it worse.
Well, I mean, the other thing is that like in this teaser, the people weren't wearing like workout clothes
Sure.
or anything. It really looks like a party game sort of vibe. I'm very curious to see what this is.
Yeah. Well, and it could also just be that that's just what they think is how to market it.
Sure, totally.
Or market it in the States. That's got to be a nightmare trying to figure out how to market like Nintendo experiences.
Yeah.
Never figured out how to market Wii Music.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, we will find out more this Thursday, September 12th. We'll be talking about it, I'm sure, next week.
Yep.
Speaking of Nintendo peripherals, Nintendo also filed patents for a hinged Joy-Con. The way it's set up is like, it seems like the top half or the top third of it is on a hinge, and it's also separate from the hinges, separate from the rails
Right.
that slide into the Switch. So
it would have to be, yeah.
So you'd be able to like slide it into the Switch, but then also kind of like bend back that top third or top half. I have no idea what this is necessarily used for. Do you think it's more ergonomic? Like, do you think there's no game necessarily around it? It's just like, here's a different way to hold your Switch.
I mean, no, it seems like that would make the thumbsticks harder to reach, right? If they're like behind the screen.
Yeah.
Do you think that there must be some sort of like any bendable or like any hinges must be with a Joy-Con that is like fundamentally different from the Joy-Con as we see it or encounter it now, right?
I mean, based on the patent, which is just an illustration, right?
Yeah.
It appears to be almost entirely the same.
Let me ask you this. Where's the accelerometer in those things? So like if you are bending it, could that be like part of an input?
Interesting.
Like, will the game read that you're bending a Joy-Con back and forth?
And also, just because there's a patent doesn't guarantee that we'll necessarily like see something.
We
come
will
from it.
definitely see something come from this.
Well, speaking of which,
Oh,
they also filed a patent for a new VR headset. They don't specifically call out the Switch, but they do show like a tablet-like device that basically looks like a Switch going into a more permanent looking housing for a VR component than, say, something like the Labo VR.
Yeah, which would be nice because, again, the Labo VR has no way to stick to your head.
Right, you're just holding it up to your face.
Yeah, with the very hands that are also controlling the inputs. It's such a weird thing because, like, I was thinking about my PlayStation VR this weekend and talking about the Iron Man game that's coming out and just being like, oh, that would be a fun thing to buy, but I also don't really want to invest in the Move controllers to actually like make that work. But like the Joy-Cons are they're basically Move controllers. Like they'll track the motion and like the accelerometer, and then are also like have all these buttons.
I mean,
it's different, but
yeah, they're not like Move controllers. They're more like if you were holding just a like PlayStation 4 controller in your hand, right? Because it has like accelerometers and everything. Wait, do the PS4 controllers have that, or is that 6-axis stuff only?
That 6-axis stuff is in the past. Yeah, it does have the like light sensor, so it can tell like positionally where it is.
But I understand your point.
Yeah.
So also some additional bits of news that we got following up on some announcements from last week's Nintendo Direct. So ever since the NES Nintendo Switch Online has been revealed, they pretty consistently every month released 3 new NES games and an SP version at least.
Or 2 and an SP version.
Yeah. So with the release of the SNES Nintendo Switch Online, Nintendo has reported that no longer are games for these platforms going to come out on a consistent basis. They still plan to add new games, but it won't be on like a month-by-month cadence.
That's a thing of the past.
Yeah. Which one makes sense, given I'm sure like how labor intensive it is to make all these games like online compatible.
Sure.
A little bit of a bummer on one hand, in the sense that like, oh, it would be cool to get the Donkey Kong Country games on here, or they're like Chrono Trigger or whatever.
Right.
But on the other hand, even now there are just so many games on the SNES online that I don't know when I'm ever going to be able to play them.
Yeah, totally.
So the like collector part of me, or the I want everything available to me all the time part of
put it
my
on there
brain
now.
is like, oh yeah, every game should be available. But the other part of me is like, they could add 100 games to this, and realistically, I'm never gonna be able to play the vast majority of them.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, for the most part, not functionally different than just having Super Mario World, Yoshi's Island, Super Metroid, and Link to the Past in there. Like, those are really the games that you're going to want to spend like a lot of time with. I mean, it's also just saying that they're not going to have a regular monthly drop of games doesn't mean that the pace of game releases is going to slow down. It might mean it speeds up.
That's true. We haven't seen for sure. I think historically, there's not a great precedent for that.
Right. But also historically, like when the Wii shop originally started, they did like a pretty steady rollout of new Nintendo and Super Nintendo and like Genesis games kind of every week for a while, right? Or maybe just every month. And then like it would go quiet for a while, and then there would be like a whole bunch like that all comes at once. I feel like that's still that is really more the kind of release that we're going to see. And I think it'll be interesting to see them kind of balance that out with individual publishers realizing that there's gold in their hills and that they can release collections on their own. Square Enix could very easily decide to put out a Final Fantasy, Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy 4 and 6 and Chrono Trigger collection, and charge $40 for it, and we'll do it.
Totally. And I mean, I think that the Final Fantasy releases that they've already done on Switch, where it's like, okay, here's 7, that's going to be $20. Here's 8, that's going to be, I don't even know what it is, $30 or whatever.
I think it's also $20.
Yeah, like whatever the pricing is. Like if you put Chrono Trigger on this and told me that I need to pay $20,
done.
I would 100% do that.
Yeah, it's one of the greatest games of all time.
Chrono Trigger is totally worth it to me, and so I'm okay. I would love that. I hope that becomes a thing. One thing that I didn't write down here is that Square Enix has announced in Japan they're releasing Dragon Quest 1, 2, and 3.
Oh yeah.
For Switch, it will have English language version. So if you bought like the Japanese version, you would be able to play it in English. They haven't released or announced a Western release for it, but
it's all region free, so you should be able to do it.
Yeah, like go for it. But that's the sort of thing where I'm like, yeah, like absolutely, I'm willing to pay what you like $20 for some of these games. Like they don't need to be free or whatever with the SNES Switch Online.
Yeah, I mean the value in the SNES Switch Online is there. Like between the SNES and the NES, there are so many really great games on there that like the $20 you spend a year like is justified. And then also you get Tetris 99. So like what are we even talking about? That game's worth $100 right now. Once buy it once.
We also got some additional details about Overwatch coming to Switch. So there's going to be no crossplay at launch, which I think makes a lot of sense. One, it gives an opportunity for new people to potentially jump into it. And two, I'm assuming, I'm not really like I'm not a stickler for this sort of stuff, but I'm assuming that like the frame rate is going to be lower on the Switch version than probably like the PS4 version or whatever, the PC version. And so it just gives everybody playing on the Switch an equal...
It's a level playing field.
Yeah, level playing field.
Let me ask you this. Is Overwatch currently cross-play with the other platforms?
I don't know.
I don't believe that it is. I mean, obviously, like PS4 Pro can play with other PS4s, and 1X to 1S and just regular old vanilla 1, I'm sure. But I don't believe you can play from like Xbox to PlayStation as it is. So it would maybe be a bigger story if it was crossplay.
We also talked a little bit last week in the aftermath of the Direct, just how like the Nintendo Switch Online with the voice chat, as more and more of these online games come online, it feels like it's kind of like missing something.
Yeah.
And we mentioned at the time that the Switch like supports native voice chat in games if developers want to utilize it. So basically, you don't have to have Nintendo Switch Online for voice chat. You can just do it in the game, hosted by like the company's developer server, publisher servers.
Yeah.
And so Overwatch will have that functionality. You'll be able to voice chat. You'll just do it directly through Overwatch, and that'll be on like Blizzard servers.
Good. I think that's a the more publishers like make that standard on Switch, I think the more Nintendo is going to see the value in it, and hopefully will migrate that thing from the app to just doing in-game voice communication in the future.
Also, Star Wars Jedi Knight 2 Jedi Outcast was announced for a September 24th release. At the time, they mentioned specifically that like you get all the single-player content and no mention of any of the multiplayer stuff. Well, we also found out that Star Wars Jedi Knight Jedi Academy, which is the first game in the series, is going to be coming in early 2020, and that one will include all of the online multiplayer scenarios and maps.
Interesting.
So, interesting to me that they're doing the second game first, but it makes sense given that they're implementing online for the first game. And I'm guessing that's maybe the more beloved version of the online. I don't really know.
Yeah, and I guess it would make sense to really only focus on like one of them for the online stuff. That is really interesting. That like, preserving and like representing games as single player experiences, obviously has this like preservation like aspect to it. But there's like a very real finite amount of multiplayer stuff that you can preserve, simply because for the game to exist, people need to be playing it. And if you're like, we're bringing back these two multiplayer games, they're basically identical. You're just splitting the player base in half, which is already a niche crowd on a platform that is more niche than like the PlayStation 3 or PC or whatever. So it's it makes sense. It's just a weird thing to kind of do the mental gymnastics on.
Also, both games are going to have gyro aiming controls.
Okay.
We learned that Peachette will be coming to Mario Kart Tour, the upcoming mobile game.
Yes.
And so this will be the first time that Peachette is playable in a game outside of New Super Mario Bros. U, where she was introduced by like Toadette could get a crown power up that
Super
would turn
crown.
her
It's called the Super Crown.
would turn her into
Please
Peachette.
don't disrespect it by just referring to it as a crown.
That's right. It is
crown.
a super crown. It went to 6 years of school to get that title.
That's right. Look, did you go to super school? No, you couldn't hack it. Please use the honorific super when referring to the crown. So does this mean that she's a selectable character as Peachette, right? That means she's like a separate character?
Yeah, seemingly.
Okay, so it is not like a glow-up version of Toadette. It is she transforms into a separate character.
Yes.
Crazy. This is wild.
This is unprecedented. But here's what I think.
Yeah.
I think that if Nintendo really wanted people to spend money on Mario Kart Tour,
I'm there with you right now.
They would make
Bowsette. Like this. Look, this is money on the table.
Servers would melt.
That's right. We would no longer have cell phone towers. They would melt. Everyone would download Bowsette for $1, $3. $3, I think, no question.
$3, no question.
Bowsette.
Put her behind like one of those gacha mechanics.
Oh my gosh. And it's all just like the different ets, and like people would be into it for like, oh yeah, I want to get Boo-et and Bombette. Like those are all great ets.
Yeah.
But Bowsette, oh my gosh, she could be like a 5-star plus S, and like we would just go until we got her.
But I think Nintendo, they've said in the past that they don't want to monetize these things too heavily, so they know they're just going to make her unlockable for free.
Well, all right, that's fair. Please, Nintendo, just give them what they want.
Shovel Knight Gold Edition Amiibo is a real thing.
Yeah, I like Shovel Knight. I like Amiibo. And yet here I am forced to ask why. This is a Shovel Knight who is gold. It follows in the footsteps of the gold Mario and also the silver Mario. And the gold... Who else was gold? There's a gold Mega Man. There's a gold Mega Man. But that's it so far. And now Shovel Knight?
Yeah. I don't know. It's also like the inglorious introduction of this one was a little weird to me. So we have the 3 Shovel Knight Amiibo set that's coming in December. And then there were like whisperings of a gold Shovel Knight, and
Whispers in the wind.
You were able to get
echoes on the water.
You could like pre-order it from GameStop last week, and then Best Buy. Then it got officially announced it's coming in December. I don't entirely understand what's going on with this thing. Does he transform into gold, or is it just like to commemorate the awesomeness?
It's just like that's another way to release an Amiibo is just spray paint the thing gold, which is cool. You remember in my apartment I used to have a dinosaur spray painted gold?
Yeah. We got that from Ryan Mogi.
Oh no! So those were on. She got that idea from us.
Oh,
we had like a I don't know, maybe like 5-inch tall Tyrannosaurus Rex made of plastic that we just spray painted gold and like had out on a black table.
Oh, I don't remember that.
It's just a nice like little accent piece. And Ryan saw it and was like, "That's a good idea." Bought tiny little dinosaurs that she spray painted gold and put on the top of mason jars that she gave to us for Christmas.
Yep,
which is a very cute gift.
Finally, last night, a new update for the Nintendo Switch firmware was released that addressed a bug where for some people, if you bought the Fire Emblem 3 Houses expansion pass, you just weren't able to launch Fire Emblem at all.
Oops.
And so that's been fixed now.
Okay, good.
Then the update also includes alarm notifications.
You can set an alarm.
And then online Play Note invitations.
Which is interesting, right? Because currently, if you're not in a game... if I'm not in Mario Kart and someone invites me to play Mario Kart, I won't know that has happened.
But how do you invite somebody to play in Mario Kart?
Oh, that's actually a really good question because you can start a room, but
I don't know how to do that.
Anyone.
Like, can you invite people through the app and now the notification appears online? Is it only for certain games? I genuinely don't understand how that's supposed to work.
More research is necessary. We will figure this out, or we won't.
But we're really leaning on our listeners here.
Yeah, so email us nintendocartridgesociety@gmail.com and let us know.
Also, is there historical precedent for a Fire Emblem expansion pass? I'm just wondering what this is going to include.
Sure.
Do you think it's going to be like an entirely different story, kind of like the Torna, the Golden Country?
Oh, interesting.
Because that was part of this expansion season pass as well, right?
It was part of the season pass, but so that you're talking
Xenoblade
about
Chronicles
Xenoblade Chronicles, right? But I mean that's kind of that ends up being a separate experience, right? Like you can play just Torn of the Golden Country if you want. I'm expecting it to be more like Fire Emblem Fates. So in that game, there were 2 paths, and you bought which path you were going to play, either the Birthright or Conquest, Revelations. It doesn't matter. I don't remember the names of these things, and I'm tired. But so there's one where like you fought with the family that raised you, and one where you fought with the family from which you were born. And then there was a sort of third scenario that came out a couple months later, which like kind of wove the 2 tales together and like it was its own ending basically. And was more difficult. So I'm guessing that it's just like, you know how there are 2 versions of the Black Eagles story? I'm guessing that it'll give like more versions of the story. Maybe each house gets a separate version, or maybe more characters in another house.
Yeah, do you think they'll like introduce an entirely new house and it becomes Fire Emblem 4 houses?
I mean, or like there's a version where like you don't become one of the house leaders and you can just like recruit anyone. Like, I think there are certainly ways for them to go to make it different. Like it would be cool if like you could join as a student instead of as a teacher. Like there are a lot of different ways that they could go, but I expect it to be like, here's another way to experience what is the main game. So like real important for second playthroughs, but maybe not, less like here's another set of, it's not like here's a new month. It'll be bigger than that, I think. Yeah, yeah. Suddenly you have to deal with Smarch, which of course means that there's like an undead Willy in there from The Simpsons, and the whole thing is like Nightmare on Elm Street. I do not expect to see that. All right, Mark, let's get out of the news. Okay, that is going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. Please rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts. If you like this episode, you could share it on Facebook or on Twitter or with the person who's sitting across from you right now. There's someone there. If you don't see them, it means they're hiding too well. Share this episode with them, please. On Twitter, you can follow us. I'm at Patrick_Ellers. Mark is at MKE Mitchell, and the show is at Nin Cart Society. We also have a Facebook page, which is Nintendo Cartridge Society. Olivia Duncan made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can get more of his music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Ellers saying we missed something with the Goldfinger Torn of the Golden Country. We could have woven those two together, but I don't know how. But thanks for listening.
Hello. Check out our new podcast,
Barely Composed,
with us,
Femini Trio.
Each week, we write a brand new comedic song with one of our funny friends.
Listen and subscribe to Barely Composed on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Brought to you by Campfire Media.
Campfire.